Hello, my dear students. Once again, you are welcome to class. Welcome to maths class once again. And in this video, we will be looking at another interesting aspect of mathematics. So basically, my dear students, we will be looking at the concepts of bearings. So, bearing is the direction or position of an object or person relative to a fixed position. So in this topic, we'll be looking at locating the positions of persons or objects, comparing them to the positions of another thing or person. And it is important to note that bearing is usually measured in degrees using a compass. And basically, there are four main compass directions or cardinal points. That is the north, south, east, and west. And we also have four secondary compass directions. That is the northeast, that is NE for short, northwest, NW for short, southeast, SE for short, and southwest, SW for short. Now here you have the picture of a compass showing the four main compass directions, north, south, east, and west, and also showing the four secondary compass directions. You have northeast in between north and east, southeast in between south and east, southwest in between south and west, and northwest in between north and west. So these are the four directions. Now it is important to know that there are three basic types of bearings: the compass bearing, acute angle bearing, and three-figure bearings. Okay, so we'll be looking at these three types of bearings and seeing how you can convert from one to the other. Now, the compass bearing involves locating the correct compass direction of one point from another. So basically, you are just expected to know the compass directions. Now, let's say, for example, you have these figures, these points, point A and point B, and you are told what is the compass bearing of B from A in this figure. Now, in this topic, bearing, always take note of the word from. Take note of the word from. It tells you the point at which you are expected to focus on, the point at which you are expected to make your calculations from. So our question here says, what is the bearing of B from A? So that means we are focusing on point A to solve this question. Now, having taken note of the word from, your next step is to connect the two lines using a straight line. Connect the center of the midpoint of the two points you are given using a straight line. So in this point, I have a green line to connect point A and point B. Now the next thing for compass bearing is to simply look at your compass and see which of these compass directions is the given line touching the point of interest. Now, because our question says from A, so our point of interest is point A. So, on which of these parts is this given line touching point A? Now, if you look at it closely again, you will see that it is touching point A in the southwestern direction. Therefore, you can say that B is in a direction southwest from A, or you say that the compass bearing of B from A is southwest. And my dear, it is as simple as that. Now for the acute angle bearing, this involves measuring the acute angle formed between the north-south, that is the vertical line, and the given line. Now remember that acute angles are angles that are less than 90 degrees. So let's say, now remember again, just for emphasis, that acute angle bearing is measured from the north or south pole. Remember, the north pole is the arrow pointing upwards, and the south pole is the arrow pointing downwards. So let's say, for example, you are given this same figure again, and you are told what is the acute angle bearing of B from A in this figure. Now the point again says from A. Like I said, take note of that word from. So our point of focus here is point A. What is the acute angle bearing? Now if you look at point A, you will see that there is an acute angle formed there, angle 45 degrees. Now, you look at it closely. Is this angle formed with a north pole or a south pole? Now you look at it there, it is formed on the south pole. Now, it is formed in between the south pole and the west pole. Now, from the south pole, how many degrees do you have towards the west? 45 degrees. So it is formed from the south pole, 45 degrees towards the west. Therefore, recall what I said, that it involves measuring the acute angle formed between the north-south vertical line and our given line. So recall I said here it is formed in between the south pole and the west pole. Therefore, our acute angle bearing of B from A is south 45 degrees west. How did we get this? South because it is formed from the south pole, 45 degrees because it is 45 degrees from the south, and then 45 degrees towards the west. And that is why we have south 45 degrees west. Assuming this line, the green line, was formed 45 degrees from the south towards the east, the acute angle bearing will be south 45 degrees east. Assuming you have this green line formed 30 degrees from the north towards the east, it will be north 30 degrees east. Or say, for example, you have it formed 80 degrees towards the west from the north, it will be north 80 degrees west. So this is how you take acute angle bearings. So up next, let's look at the three-figure bearings. Now this involves measuring the angle in degrees formed between the north pole and the given line in a clockwise direction. Now please take note, for three-figure bearings, you are expected to start your calculations from the north pole, and you are expected to go in a clockwise direction. Now, for angles that are less than 100 degrees, 0 is placed in front of the digits, e.g., 30 degrees will be written as 030 degrees. Now, this is why it is called three-figure bearings. There must be 3 digits. Okay, so if you are told to give 3-figure bearings and you write something like 30 or 90 just like that, you will be wrong. If the angle is not up to 100, you are expected to add 0 before the number. So let us take an example on this using this same figure. What is the three-figure bearing of B from A in the figure you have here? Now again, we say from A. So we are focusing on point A again. But this time around, we are going to calculate our angle from the North Pole on point A. Now if you look at this, you see that this line here is our North Pole and this is our given line. So three-figure bearings is the angle formed between the North Pole and the given line in a clockwise direction. So going clockwise, you have 90 degrees formed here, you have another 90 degrees formed here, and then you have 45 degrees. So the three-figure bearing of B from A will be 90 plus 90 plus 45, and that gives us 225 degrees. Now for a number like 225, you do not need to add 0 in front of it because it is already three-figure. Okay, so let's take an example 4. If the bearing of P from Q is 130 degrees, what is the bearing of Q from P? The bearing of P from Q is 130. So what is the bearing of Q from P? Now, first of all, make a sketch. So make a sketch. Our sketch will look like this. We are told that the bearing of P from Q, that is, the angle is on Q. That is why we say from Q. So P from Q, we have 130 degrees. And the question is, what is the bearing of Q from P? So to solve it, we are expected to focus on P this time around. Now, remember I said three-figure bearing involves measuring the angle formed from the North Pole to the given line. So we are actually calculating the angle represented here on point P. And to calculate this, looking at point Q very well, you see that the north-south line is a straight line, and of course, angle on a straight line is 180 degrees. So if the angle on a straight line is 180 degrees and you have this point as 130, so which means this other point will be 50 degrees. And if this point on point Q is 50 degrees, then coming down to point P, you will also expect this side to be 50 degrees because they are alternate angles and alternate angles are equal. Now, if this point on point P is 50 degrees and we are looking for these other aspects, knowing fully well that the angles in a circle is 360 degrees and this other point is 50 degrees, so our angle of interest will be 360 degrees minus 50, which gives us 310 degrees. So this is to say that the bearing of Q from P is 310 degrees. Now take note that there are two methods that you can solve for a question like this. The first method is the one I just showed you. Now for the second method, there are two aspects of it that you need to take note. Now the first aspect of it is when you are given a first angle that is less than 180. Now if the given angle or bearing is less than 180 degrees, add 180 degrees to it to get the corresponding bearing. Just like in the example we just did, where we were given and told if the bearing of P from Q is 130 degrees, what is the bearing of Q from P? Now here we are the given angle here is 130 degrees. And I said if the given angle is less than 180, all you simply have to do is add 180 to it and you will get the corresponding bearing. That is, you will get the bearing of Q from P. Now if you do that, you will have 130 plus 180, and that gives us 310. And that was exactly what we got in the first method we used when we did 360 minus 50. Now the second point to take note there is this. If the given bearing is greater than 180 degrees, you are expected to subtract 180 degrees from it to get the corresponding bearing. The first time I said if it is less than 180, you add 180 to it to get the corresponding bearing. Now, if the given angle is greater than 180, subtract 180 from it to get the corresponding bearing. Let's say, for example, 5. If the bearing of N from M is 260 degrees, what is the bearing of M from N? So in this case, our given bearing is 260 degrees, which is greater than 180. So if the bearing of N from M is 260 degrees, to get the bearing of M from N, you are simply expected to subtract 180 degrees from 260. So doing it this way, we have 260 minus 180, and that gives us 80 degrees. So that is to say that the bearing of M from N is 80 degrees. So you can use any of the methods that you understand better and evaluate yourself on everything I have talked about in this video. Watch the video again, looking at the compass directions, the main compass directions and the secondary compass directions. Look again at the types of bearings, how you can convert from one form of bearing to the other. Evaluate yourself, look at the compass again, take your time, go through it, and until I see you again, I say thank you for watching the video. Take your time to answer the quiz, do the assignments, and take a very good care.
The time we spend apart will make our love grow stronger. But it hurts so bad I can't take it any longer. I wanna grow old with you. I wanna die